Hello, and greetings from the land of tents. Today's pilot episode is called Immigration, Checks, and Robberies. In recent times, since the election of a new junta, the topic of immigration, or more accurately, the introduction of a new electorate, has been heated. The new establishment, in its bid for worldly power during the previous year, made numerous promises to bolster their numbers. And in that time, amnesty was screamed for from the rooftops by the emboldened party. But now that the capital has been subjugated, the bill has come due. For the plebs, I mean. For those of us so lucky to live in the land of tents, far in the west, unfettered immigration is the norm, regardless of the capital's whims, and we, as usual, will pay the price. As an example, I have a news story here dated March 5th, 2021, with credit to ABC News. The report is basically this. A human smuggling operation went wrong, and after illegally breaching the United States border, the smuggler crashed the vehicle into a big rig, killing 13 people inside. The smuggler had crammed 25 people into a Ford Expedition SUV, disregarding the safety of those on board for sweet profit. This story represents the current problem of the junta's immigration policy and the grievous flaw in the ever-changing orthodoxy of the American Communist Party. Weak immigration policy encourages an environment in which criminal actors can take advantage of desperate people, creating an atmosphere of lawlessness. Especially when countries such as Mexico has a weak rule of law and, honestly, a useless judiciary. Illegal aliens who do manage to evade border security and dwell in the United States do so as second-class citizens, alienated from the language and the culture of the host society. The dangerous promise of ever-expanding amnesty exacerbates the already precarious situation at the border. Apart from that, the helicopters which evacuated the surviving smuggled peoples to the hospital and their medical care will of course be at the expense of the California taxpayer. On that note, speaking of future expenses via Sacramento, California legislators have voted to pass a bill which would give $600 to taxpayers who apply to the Earned Income Tax Credit, along with an extra $600 to illegal aliens who earn less than $75,000 per annum. State funds will also be sent to CalWorks for families whose income is below the poverty line, which is all well and good. However, some of that money will be sent to a cash assistance program for immigrants. Before doing this podcast, I didn't even know they had a cash assistance program for immigrants. And while tents line the street, the waterways, and the highways of every Californian city, it's very good to know that the legislators care for the citizens of the Californian Republic. And for the plebes who live on the street, or the ones who unfortunately have to pay tax and not do heroin all day, they don't really matter. Either of them. They'll vote the same anyway, just like they did in the previous election. Anyway, recently, another tax has been passed on the people in the form of a more violent method of wealth distribution: robberies. California's urban centers has seen an increase in robberies and other violent crimes, especially homicide. While in the People's Republic of California, I would advise you to watch your back and always remain aware of your surroundings, whether in private or in public. Crimes can strike at any time when the police forces are stretched thin with little support from city leadership. For one family in downtown Los Angeles, they were taken by violent surprise on 7th Street and Hill in the swanky financial district. While shopping, they were robbed in broad daylight by two assailants, one of which was armed, who shot the father after pistol whipping him in the head. Of course, no arrests have been made. And if I cut this podcast correctly, I should have video up on the screen.
Now at 11, a couple and their 2-year-old son attacked in broad daylight while shopping in downtown LA yesterday. It happened near 7th and Hill Street just after 3 p.m. The male victim was pistol whipped and shot in the arm. Fortunately, the female victim and their son were not harmed. Police say they are looking for 3 men and a woman linked to this attack. The suspect's car is a gray Chrysler 3.
In the northern cities of this misused land, the authorities and media there have also noticed a completely unpredictable surge in crime, especially against Asians. One article with credit to ABC News, dated January 31st, 2021, claims San Francisco's Chinatown feels as though it is under siege. There's been 20 robbery or theft incidents since the new year, usually targeting women or seniors. One resident in the article states, "The recent report only captures a fraction of what occurs in Chinatown, and that most crime is not reported. Businesses in the town has also been affected, especially after coronavirus shutdowns and the communist government of China's relation to the coronavirus." Another article, dated March 4th, 2021, shows 3 robberies and or attacks against elderly Asians. One of them, an 84-year-old man, was killed. For one of the robberies, the police has offered a $2,500 reward for information related to the suspects. There's no hurry after all. But not to be too harsh on San Francisco police, they've also handed out pamphlets on community safety and awareness. Lastly, here's the kicker. In nearby Oakland, a store owner was arrested for stopping the robbery of a woman outside of his store in Chinatown. When the police responded to the scene, the store owner was arrested for felony assault with a firearm. The shop owner shot his handgun to protect the woman, and therefore he had to be punished. He was eventually released on $60,000 bail and is currently awaiting a court date. The police, of course, did not seem to bother with the robber, as he had not committed a serious crime. In this land, gun ownership is a far greater threat to the consolidation of state power than your average career criminal. The head of the police department, LeRon Armstrong, stated in a Facebook video, "Our message really is, we don't want to see our business owners or others begin to arm themselves. The message of San Francisco authorities is clear. The plebes take what they get. And if you defend yourself, we will strip you of your citizens' rights and raid your life savings." Oh, and to my other Chinese citizens, remember, Black Lives Matter. The crux of the issue is, and what I think the Asian population fails to understand, is that there is no political benefit to helping their current situation. And I'm sure the Politburo in every California city knows this. The election has already been won. Checks are already being cut. And there are more important things afoot than a Korean, Chinese, Japanese, or Thai elderly store owner. Furthermore, the police are not in favor with the party leadership at the moment, and effective policing requires armed men on the beat. It requires new hires and thus future pension obligations if you keep them on. So if any Asian happens upon this podcast, I would advise you Don't count on help from regional authorities. And before you ask, no, they will not be cleaning up the tents in your local park. No Tai Chi Chuan for you. Speaking of our land's most visual symbol, not the bear, the tent. San Francisco is currently paying $16 million for housing residents in safe sleeping villages. Not shanty towns, not Hoovervilles, safe sleeping villages. Remember that. They'll be putting us in one of those one day. The camps currently house only 300 people, an obvious fraction of the homeless population. San Francisco also currently pays $300 million annually for homeless services, despite facing a predicted budget shortfall of $650 million over the next 2 fiscal years. The People's Party, with great wisdom, previously funded these programs through taxes on businesses in San Francisco, the same businesses they've closed for the previous year. As usual, the plebes must cover the costs. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and welcome to the Land of Tents. I hope you enjoy your stay. Links to the article and credit for photos are in the description below. Thank you for listening to my nerdy voice. God bless you, people. Be safe out there.